There are different type of abusive drugs in the market. Some are called stimulatory drugs. So these produce certain neurotransmitters, stimulatory neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline. So actually these stimulatory neurotransmitters stimulate our heart and brain. So what are neurotransmitters? Neurotransmitters are certain chemicals or hormones which can act on the receptors of the heart as well as the brain. I'll give you an example. When we listen to good music, suppose we listen to good music or enjoy a good sport or involve in a good social activities, some hormones in our brain like dopamine produce, and this will stimulate the brain and give us an enjoyment, and this is what's called a reward system in the brain. But when we take some of the stimulatory abusive drugs like amphetamines or MDMA, there is a surge of an excessive amount of this dopamine in our body. Sometimes it can be 20 to 30 times more than what produce in our brain. So what happens because of that? Some of these neurotransmitters like noradrenaline and serotonin can stimulate the heart, and it can increase the heart rate, it can increase the blood pressure, and some people can have heart attack or even heart failure because of these drugs. What are the action of these neurotransmitters on the brain? Actually, these neurotransmitters, because of its excessive production, can shift the normal reward system in the brain to an unnatural reward system in the brain, which means that the people who take these drugs will have more pleasure than the normal. So slowly they depend upon these drugs to enjoy this pleasure, and they slowly shift from the normal activities like enjoying a music, just having a good social enjoyment, and they slowly become dependent on these drugs giving enjoyment or pleasure. So this is a very dangerous situation because these people can get addicted to this unnatural reward system in the brain, and sometimes it may not be possible for them to return from that state, and this can slowly lead to many of the psychotic activities. So these people can get aggressive, and if those people don't get these drugs, they develop some withdrawal symptoms. That means that they crave for these drugs and they get more anxieties and depression. Sometimes these people can commit suicide because of the drugs. This is a very widespread danger in our society, especially in young people and children. Because in the early stage of the development of the brain, if they are dependent on these drugs, the brain itself can change. So sometimes this change can be irrecoverable. That means they cannot come back from this state. So parents, children, young men, we have to be very careful in this situation. This is a very dangerous situation in our society. We need to resist with all our might. So please don't go into this company of people who use these drugs, and try to bring the people who are already dependent on these drugs.